The silent power you never learned to use. What if I told you that the most magnetic people you've ever met were the ones you could never fully grasp? That the ones you chased, romantically, socially, spiritually, weren't the loudest, but the ones who held back? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what no one tells you is that becoming yourself requires something rare. You have to stop giving yourself away. This is not about manipulation. It's about preservation. Today, we explore what happens when you stop being constantly available to others and start becoming fully available to yourself. Because the truth is, power isn't loud. Power is silent. And the art of being unavailable is the first step toward true strength. When you give too much, you lose yourself. In a world addicted to attention, we've been trained to constantly show up, reply instantly, be available, be seen, be liked. But there's a hidden cost to this kind of presence. You disappear from yourself. The more you give without intention, the more you dilute your value. Carl Jung believed the unconscious shapes our behavior more than we know. So ask yourself, who's really making you say yes all the time? Is it your conscious will, or a fear of being forgotten? Most people don't realize overavailability isn't kindness. It's often a trauma response, a fear of abandonment, a desire to be wanted, a belief that if you disappear, no one will notice. So you stretch yourself thin. Say yes when you want to say no. You post every day, show up for everyone, reply to every message, and still feel invisible. The tragedy is, the more visible you try to become for others, the less seen you feel within. The power beneath the surface. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So much of our availability to others isn't conscious. It's driven by needs we don't fully understand. We say yes out of guilt. We overshare to be validated. We over-explain to be accepted. But underneath it all, there's fear. Fear that if we become less available, we become less loved. Jung's path of individuation is about reclaiming those lost pieces of ourselves, to see the unconscious patterns and then choose differently. It starts with one simple but terrifying act: silence. Not replying, not reacting, not explaining, just being. That's when the unconscious starts to speak, and the real self begins to surface. The need to be needed is not love. Every time you chase validation, you are abandoning yourself. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of us we hide. Because we're afraid they're unlovable. The need to be constantly available is often a mask for the fear of rejection. So we become overly agreeable. We overgive. We overshare. We try to be liked instead of being true. But here's the secret. The more you show up for yourself, the less you need to prove anything to anyone. You stop chasing applause. You stop needing replies. You stop needing to be seen. And ironically, that's when people notice you most. Because what's rare is valuable. And someone who doesn't need your attention to feel whole is unforgettable. The shift that changes everything. When you stop chasing, life begins to come to you. You move from seeker to selector, from chasing approval to choosing alignment. And this shift is spiritual. It's energetic. It's magnetic. Jungian psychology is about wholeness. And wholeness doesn't beg. When you become emotionally independent, others feel it. They sense your boundaries, your depth, your clarity. You no longer say yes out of fear. You say no out of wisdom. You are not withholding. You are conserving. Because you understand this. Energy is sacred, and who you give it to determines what your life becomes. Silence is a statement. In mythology, the gods didn't shout. They whispered. And when they spoke, everyone listened. We've confused presence with noise. But true presence is still. It's the calm person in the storm. It's the one who doesn't react because they don't need to. That's magnetism. Stillness draws attention because it's rare. And in a world of constant performance, someone who can sit in silence is powerful beyond words. Less is more and always will be. Luxury isn't loud. It's limited. The most desirable people, places, and experiences aren't abundant. They're rare. And this applies to you. The more you overshare, overgive, overexpose, the more you become common. Carl Jung believed individuation was the path to becoming whole. And wholeness doesn't chase crowds. It cultivates rarity. Be someone who's not always reachable, not always available, not always explaining themselves. Because the less you give of yourself freely, the more value your presence holds. Individuation is not isolation, but it does require separation. You can't become whole if your identity depends on being wanted. Being unavailable is not selfish. It's self-formation. It's stepping back so you can see yourself clearly, without noise, without opinions, without external feedback loops. This is how you start to hear your own voice, the one that's been buried under years of people-pleasing and performance. You begin to build an inner world so rich, you no longer crave validation from the outside. And from that place, you begin to attract, not because you tried, but because you finally became yourself. True power doesn't pursue, it pulls. Power doesn't chase, it waits. Power doesn't explain, it embodies. Power doesn't scream, it vibrates silently, and everyone around it feels it. The art of being unavailable is not about ignoring others. It's about honoring yourself. It's not about rejecting connection. It's about choosing intentional connection. You are not here to be accessible to everyone. You are here to be authentic with a few. That is power. That is peace. That is freedom. Becoming whole is becoming rare. You were not born to be endlessly reachable. You were born to become real. And to become real, you have to disappear from the noise, so you can return with presence. Being unavailable is not a game. It's a spiritual posture. It's saying, I matter. My time matters. My energy is sacred. And when you live that way, the world starts to treat you differently. So start small. Delay the reply. Sit in silence. Say no without apology. And watch how your life transforms. Not because you did more, but because you finally did less with power. This is Solence. And this is the art of being unavailable.